Hello everyone, this is the lecture for the second week of English 1010. Last week on the syllabus I mentioned Models Chapter 1. I'm going to talk about that now. So if you have your textbook, I would open it up on page 9. Basically the whole chapter is about the writing process, and that's what's kind of key, is to understand that it is a process. This is not something you really should do last minute. You should you should start with a draft, give yourself some time, then do a revision, and then revise again, and then proofread, meaning looking for grammar, that kind of thing. Also this week, and chapter 1 talks about this, but they go more in depth in chapter 3, I believe. You have to create a thesis statement. What is that, and so forth. So definitely review chapter 1 if you haven't done so. It's a good thing to go over. They talk about brainstorming, how to come up with ideas. So all of this is very important with understanding writing altogether. So I mean I didn't want to go over that last week just because you already had so much information, just adjusting to the online course. So but definitely review chapter 1, which starts on page 9. So the rest of this week, um, or rather the second week, we're going to talk about chapter 3, which is on page 71. In this chapter, and there's going to be some quiz questions on this, we'll talk about what is a thesis, how does that work, what does it do, where should it be. So definitely review the thesis chapter. I will say this, that, and this is verbatim from the textbook, the thesis is an essay's main or controlling idea, meaning the point of the essay. So it's the biggest, or a common mistake writers have, especially college writers, is that they do not make the thesis explicit. It's not very obvious what it is. So it's inferred. Like you can figure out the topic, but there's a difference between the topic and a thesis. So you really got to pay attention to that. And the essays for this week are going to have topics, and some will have a thesis, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The last chapter for models is chapter 13. That's on page 321. And that is your chapter on what is an illustration essay. So I'll be coming back to this when I talk about the illustration assignment, but definitely review those chapters so you have a better appreciation of the writing process. What is a thesis statement? Make sure you have one. Although for your first essay assignment, I'm going to kind of help you along with that. And then more specifically, your first assignment, which is writing an illustration essay. So I'll hold off on that. Well, actually, that's the next thing coming up. But before I get into that, let me just start off on the Blackboard site. So you will see this Sunday morning. So this is a typical announcement that I'll post every week. So I'll say what to read. I'll list what assignments there are that week, and any upcoming major assignments I'll also list down here. And again, same as last time, which is just the illustration paper, which again I'll be talking about today. Okay, and I'll talk about the quiz and the assignment you have this week. So I'm going to go back to models. So if you have your textbook, it's on 321. So an illustration is, as the book says, is the use of examples, facts, opinions, samples, anecdotes, or stories to make ideas more concrete and generalizations more specific and detailed. So basically you're going to write an essay where you illustrate it. You illustrate what you're trying to say, again, through any of those ways: facts, opinions, anecdotes, samples, Um, the textbook has some examples in there that you can check out for sure. Um, I, I I think the essays we have this week are just as good. Um, it's a very short chapter, which this book is full of, by the way. If you look on page 322, there's an example paragraph here. And right in the middle, page 322, it says the author uses numerous examples to support his topic sentence with adequate supporting evidence. By citing specific examples of key changes in American society that have led to tremendous growth in the fast food industry, Schlosser makes his point strong and convincing. Um, and then bulleted text, some strategies to think of. Begin by thinking of ideas and generalizations about your topic that you can make clearer and more persuasive by illustrating them with facts, anecdotes, or specific details. Focus primarily on your main points, the central generalization that you'll develop in your essay. Be alert for other statements or references that may benefit from illustration. So this assignment is basically to help you learn how to write with details. Okay, so I'm going to click on the handout, which is under, let's see here, under essay assignments. So it's your first essay. It's only needs to be 500, 600 words, which is 2 full pages. And again, I'm kind of giving you the thesis. So I want you to write an illustration essay using one of the 3 topics. Either explain how chaotic or boring your life is. That's all I hear from students, is that they either have a very chaotic life or they have a boring life. So pick one and illustrate it. Explain to me how your life is chaotic or how your life is boring. If you're a sports-minded person like myself, explain why fill in the blank will win a championship. Now, as I'm recording this, and actually when I first post this, the Super Bowl will not have completed yet, so it'll probably be too late for that then. But you could pick NBA or baseball or even next season for football or anything. And then if neither of those topics work for you, a third choice is explain how the internet is good or bad. So it's up to you. Again, I think with both topics, you can easily say one thing or the other. And again, I think you can, and I think all of you have had experiences on the web that you can illustrate why something is good or why the internet is good or why it's bad. If neither of those prompts or none of those prompts are enticing for you, please email me. Don't just make up your own. You have to get my approval. And as long as if you have an idea and come with an idea in mind, I mean, I am open to it, but you need my approval. Just let me know. So that is your first essay, due in a few weeks, February 24th. So today is the 1st, but you'll be seeing this on the 3rd. So I mean, 3 weeks you have to work on this. At some point, maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks, I'll even kind of talk about like a general outline of what you can do. I may even reach out to you all to suggest to use your topic. That's what I do in my face-to-face classes. So that's pretty much it. That is that's the big assignment for your first month, basically. And then the other essays I want you to read this week, and make sure you read them in this particular order. Make sure you read Confession, Why Getting Hazed first. So that is an essay. Whoops. That's interesting. I guess I had this up too long. Why Getting Hazed by My Sorority Was Weirdly Worth It. So it's an essay, and the title kind of suggests the thesis. But definitely read it. Have some thoughts on it. Think about how well you think the author wrote this essay, because that's something we're going to talk about a lot, and again, I'll come back to next week. And I also assigned an essay where someone responds to this essay. So this article is a complete just retort to this piece that Cosmopolitan posted. So again, think about what both writers say. Think about how well they say it. Again, how well do they illustrate their thesis? Again, what she is illustrating, and again, it's pretty clear from the title, why getting Hayes was worth it. Okay. Does she have the support? Does it make sense what she's trying to say? You will find out what this author thinks about that, whether or not she does have any support for that. And again, we'll talk about that next week after everyone's read everything. So in terms of assignments, you are going to have we're going to have another quiz. So let me show you that real quick. And again, the syllabus, was a little different, but this is your first one based on reading. So the first three have to do with those two online articles. Oh, and the online articles will be under reading assignments under the folder for this week. So that's where you can find those. And then the last two questions have to do with the models assignments, the models, your textbooks reading assignments. And again, since it's a quiz, that is due by Thursday, 11:59 p.m. No discussion board, or group for that matter. I guess we'll have to tackle that next week. But you do have your first assignment. So on the assignments tab, and the way these assignments work, they're kind of more open. So you're just responding to me. My expectation is about 1 to 2 paragraphs. And this one's pretty general. So I want you to find an argumentative, persuasive essay online and identify the thesis. So, I mean, really the best way to search for that, I would say, is, like an op-ed piece. So like op-ed, you can do New York Times. So here we go. Oh, was that the famous? Yeah, this was a famous op-ed that someone in Trump's organization wrote. You can do cleveland.com, don't have to go New York Times. So all of these, and I would definitely just search for op-ed. Let's see. What is interesting to me? So basically this is what you would do, what I'm doing right now. So here's an essay on Kamala Harris, who just announced she's running for president. The toughest progressive we've seen in a long time. And they're pretty clear-cut that they're opinion pieces. They're usually fairly short. You would read it. So going back to the assignment though. So find it, and then just number one, identify the thesis, then explain if you agree with it. Okay? So like if I was doing this, I would identify what he's saying about Kamala Harris, and then after reading the whole thing, I would decide, yep, he made his point, I agreed, he was convincing to me, or he wasn't. So it's totally up to you. Make sure you do include the link to the article. So like I would just simply, copy this and then paste it in my assignment. So make sure you have that so I can easily check what you're referring to. So you have two minor assignments, small assignments. Now these are worth a little bit more. They're both worth 10 points each, as opposed to 5 points in the first week. And then, like I said, the biggest assignment is the illustration essay due February 24th. So that is it for this week, so not a very long lecture. We'll talk a little bit more. And I know I promised a lecture on plagiarism. I'm working on that. I'm trying to update it a little bit, actually, and actually have it more accessible to everyone. So I may post that just sometime during the week. Meanwhile, the secret word for this week, and you would, go under lectures and submit this. I think I went with whatever I was listening to. So I was listening to the police. So the secret word is police. Police. So just submit that, prove you listened to this, watched it, and you'll get your points for there. So like I said, that's about it for this week. Email me if you have any questions. You can probably tell I'm recording this on Friday, so I'm still working on grading the first week's assignments, and hopefully I'll be caught up by Sunday evening or so. All right, have a good week, and contact me if you have any questions.